It has been another busy week when it comes to footage of Fortune's Weave on the Japanese Fire Emblem Twitter account, so it's as good a time as any to take a closer look. And we started exactly a week ago when a short video went up detailing the basics of Fire Emblem's gameplay. You know, battles are fought on a grid, you move your units around one by one, the kind of stuff you would imagine Fire Emblem's Twitter followers already know, but alas. While the footage is as such certainly not as interesting as the character reveals from 2 weeks ago, this is still worthwhile footage to highlight, not in the first place because this is the first map shown in these Twitter trailers that isn't set in an arena, and as such is most likely not part of the heroic games. It is probably early game, seeing as the team assembled here consists of only 5 units. Kai, Glasses Girl, Orange Hair Kid that has been seen with Kai frequently before, a guy with a tuft of red hair and a face scar who has also been seen with Theodora and Dietrich previously, as well as Oltan from the June Direct, appearing as a green unit. At least, I'm more and more starting to doubt whether that is actually what this is, a green unit. I have so far consistently called it that in past analysis videos, but I feel the colorization is only becoming more and more teal, so blue, as time goes on. So maybe this is actually a new feature, a type of unit that is in between playable and fully green. It's hard to say right now, but it wouldn't surprise me if I end up wrong and these are actually not green units, but something new. If we assume this is an early map, judging by the lack of units and small size, it once again begs the question what these hearts above Kai's allies are. You would think it's way too early for supports, as is currently the leading theory, so what if this isn't an early map, like the trailer is clearly trying to make us believe? Could this perhaps be a skirmish instead, or a paralogue? Perhaps a paralogue that rewards you with recruiting Oltan afterwards, explaining why she isn't a blue unit. It's impossible to say, but I'm not convinced this is one of the first chapters of the game, as I have seen many people speculate. Then time for Kai to move, confirming fortunately that I was wrong 2 weeks ago. Back then, the character trailer showed no selection quotes, heard when you select your unit, but this video does have them, confirming they're not cut after all. Kai is a commoner here, not yet riding his trademark Flying Orneus. Next up is his closest ally, presumably, and her name, according to her selection quote, is Tiara August. Do keep in mind that name is a literal translation, her localized English name might prove to be slightly different when the game is actually out. This does confirm though that last names are back from Free Houses, which was actually the only game so far that gave every character a last name. Tiara is a commoner, just like Kai, but she specializes in magic, holding a fire tome. She too makes heart icons appear above her allies' head, and she has access to combat arts, confirming that neither of those mechanics are locked to the main characters, plus the fact they were grayed out for Kai is not because they were not unlocked yet, it's because Kai can't use them without an enemy nearby. Interesting to note here is that, despite the fact Kai and Tiara are both the same class, Kai actually has 1 movement more than she does. He can walk 5 tiles, she can only walk 4. The same applies to the orange-haired boy, now revealed to be called Peter. That is a Dutch name, my specialty, which means it's actually pronounced Peter, but I suspect they'll go with the more English-friendly Peter. Peter is a commoner as well, but he uses bows and is equipped with a wooden bow, a new weapon that I doubt is built for the endgame. Interestingly enough, when Peter moves next to Oltan, an icon appears in the corner suggesting you press the minus button to cause some sort of heart effect. Is this related to the hearts above everyone's head? Maybe some changes to the support system that now require you to track it more during battles? It does look like pressing the minus button gives you more details. There is a magnifying glass next to it, and the heart icon appears to have 2 hands shaking inside it, so I would assume it's support related. Also note that Oltan is now in a different place from where she was before. Are we being tricked here and is this actually the next turn? Or did Oltan move forth after Tiara and Scarguy, but before Peter? That would confirm she is not a green unit and you can actually control her, despite the fact she is not a blue unit either. Time for the enemy phase then, where Oltan is the target of this sword-using baddie. Suddenly we see during the battle that while this may not be in an arena, we still have spectators, and this enemy soldier is called Goliath's Underling. In a past video I suspected that the names used during arena battles are not meant to reflect an actual faction in-game, but more so themes for the heroic games, but here I don't think that applies. I suspect Goliath is an actual character in this game, so sort of a boss or a bandit, and these are members of his crew. Not really good though. Armed with a wooden sword, he barely makes a dent in Oltan and promptly gets wiped away by her fire tome. Oltan being a magic user is in line with the recent direct, which showed her to be a priest. Do note that in that shot she is a member of Kai's army, while here she is not, as she lacks his faction symbol during the fight. She also does not earn EXP from her battle, further suggesting she is still to some degree a green unit. When the next enemy goes to move, we can very briefly see the enemy commander and the boss of the map, who has a portrait above his head. I can't make out any details about his appearance though, unfortunately, but that might be because he or she is wearing a helmet. Round 2 then, and now Kai is ready to attack, meaning that both Blaze Arts and Combat Arts are available for him now. He is armed with a wooden lance, which only has 10 usages, not a lot. Fortunately, weapons only lose durability when you use a Combat Art, which is why Kai's attack here doesn't cost anything. We can also see here that Kai has 2 crests already, Albin and Gautier, and this is the first time the crest of Gautier is seen without Kai's eyes having changed to red. So it seems like the theory that his powers awakening causes the red eyes and crest to appear is incorrect. The enemy Kai targets is a sword fighter, a class that wasn't in free houses, although it wasn't engaged. Again, Kai deals quite some damage and takes very little, just like Altan, but I can't say that means much to me. Numbers and stats are so easy to manipulate for trailers like this that I don't think we should pay them any mind, if I'm being honest. Okay, couple days later and we get our first proper character reveal for anyone that isn't on the cover. Everyone meet Tiara, one of Kai's childhood friends. She's an avid reader who has an extreme amount of knowledge despite being only 15 years old, just like Kai. She lives with her grandfather in Rubaira village, and he is not exactly a nobody, as it is specified he is a former tactician, a talent his granddaughter inherited. And it's very interesting to me, because in past games, if the idea of an in-universe tactician was acknowledged, the role usually went to the avatar. Not always, Claude is definitely built up as a great tactician for example, and there is Hubert for the Black Eagles as well, but considering the complete lack of an avatar so far, I consider this another small hint. I also don't think it's a coincidence that Tiara, of the August family of tacticians, shares her name with the character August from Freya 776, who is also a tactician. Other likes of hers include board games, as well as discussing love, whatever that means. But in that light, the little video accompanying this profile is interesting, because it shows what I would strongly assume is a support conversation between Kai and Tiara. For those of you hoping supports would get a tremendous visual upgrade, I'm sorry, but that doesn't appear to be happening. The background isn't completely static, notice the birds and waving flags here, and there is more artificial depth to it, but it's still far from actually rendered, and while the animations of the models are more fluid than in free houses, I don't even spot a significant upgrade from Engage here. We do again see the animated portraits here though, and they are a nice touch. As for what is said in this conversation, I'm not gonna translate it literally word for word, because frankly it's not that revealing, but I do want to point out the following. Tiara's first line here is absolutely not the start of this conversation, so we're dropping in the middle of it. Tiara highlights how she absolutely loves books, but her grandfather actually disapproves, which is a twist I did not see coming reading her profile. Kai is surprised to learn that as well, after which Tiara reveals she as such has been reading in secret and now has read every book in her house. She enjoys the knowledge she has now, but the fact her grandfather wanted to keep that from her is potentially interesting. Whether it's only a detail in her character or actually an important element will remain to be seen though. Next, we also get some footage of Tiara on the battlefield, and while this is hardly the most revolutionary trailer we've seen so far, there are still some things to highlight. For one, Tiara is not a commoner anymore here, but now a diviner, a class that was previously exclusive to Fire Emblem Fates and Hoshido specifically. The class description highlights it still works the same as it did back then, having the capability to strike with magic attacks, reason in this case, and heal allies. The map this little segment takes place in is one we've seen before for Kai, but now we get a good look at Kai's entire army for this battle, revealing not just the group from the previous gameplay trailer, but also a guy with popping eyes, guy or girl with what looks like blue hair, and 4 green/teal units, Leda, Ursula, guy with a face scar we've seen before, and this guy with a toothpick who nearly caught Dietrich's sword to the throat in the initial reveal of the game. It's been a while since we last saw him, but it turns out he's playable after all. Selecting Tiara again makes heart icons appear above everyone's head, but there are a few exceptions this time. The teal units of course, that isn't a great surprise, but also the guy with the beard and the popping eyes. Have they just not connected yet? Or do they just not have a support available? Either way, Tiara decides to use her combat art to help out Kai, revealing her 3 options are Offensive Command and Defensive Command, which are supportive moves and boost strength and presumably defense, as well as Windstream Lance, which is currently unavailable. It is an interesting combat art though, because Tiara is currently wielding a wind tome, not a lance. Maybe it comes from being a commoner previously? Also note that Kai, the target here, is now a flying Orneus rider and is wielding a weapon that literally translates to halberd. But it's still a lance. Previously, halberds were axes, but in Engage they were renamed to pole axe, so perhaps they've now made halberd a new weapon and a lance at that. And here we can see and confirm that the heart icon is for supports, as that is what Kai and Tiara gain after she has helped him. It does leave the question what the number means though. Perhaps it's used to track how many supports you've built in a chapter? That would mean there was heavy trickery going on though, as we were led to believe all past shots with the support hearts were from the start of the battle, which then couldn't be the case. Or maybe they've just scrapped the past support system with CBAS entirely, it's hard to say. In the next sequence, Tiara uses the good old physic to heal Kai. Note that his Orneus is a different color now compared to shots from previous trailers. Can we perhaps change the look of our mounts? Or did they maybe end up bringing the cut stables mechanic and horse racing back from free houses? It was close to being included back then. It is impossible to say for certain, but that can be a coincidence, surely. As Tiara gains XP, we can also see she is wielding a shield now, which she wasn't previously. Let it serve as another reminder that these little trailers are filled with trickery in how the shots are cut, edited and stitched together, because there is no evidence of this shield anywhere prior. On to the next day then, when we get a video showcasing the battle forecast screen. That's nothing I need to explain to you guys of course, but once again we do get some very interesting new looks at several elements. For one, the unit chosen to showcase this is the Old Man, frequently seen alongside Dietrich, the closest thing he appears to have to a retainer, and now we finally get a good look at him. And man, I love his design. It's very unconventional in a way that is instantly intriguing. His name is revealed to be Fabio, although remember, this could prove to be localized as Fabian or Fabiano or whatever. It's not set in stone. He is a diviner, just like Tiara, and is armed with Miasma Delta, which in Free Houses was a spell learnable through becoming a Dark Mage or Dark Bishop. As he moves towards his target, take in the strange setting of this fight. This is not an arena, this is not the heroic games, but what is it? It appears once again weirdly modern in a way, and I think it's closed off too, plus there is something protected by a force field here. When Fabio moves around, notice that no hearts appear above his allies' heads this time. One of those allies is the bearded guy with the popping eyes by the way, who was a member of Kai's army earlier in the video. Seems like he's recruitable in multiple if not all routes. Then, when Fabio makes the impression he wants to attack, we suddenly see this weird banner with a heart and Dietrich's face appear in the corner of the screen, which has never been there before. What is going on here? Can you toggle the way you want supports to be shown, maybe? It's the only way I can think of why this weird discrepancy would exist. Oh, and you probably noticed how odd the enemies are too, right? They appear to be holograms or ghosts or something unnatural at least, and their banner is also one we have never seen before. The combat forecast calls this enemy a defense soldier, which doesn't really tell us much, but judging by their appearance, I wouldn't be surprised if this is some sort of program or illusion, not a real person. The enemy does end the video by yelling when attacked though, so maybe I'm wrong. It reminds me of the fabrication seen in Engage, and those weren't plot relevant, but I suspect these blue fellas definitely are. But maybe I'm wrong and this is some sort of battle training simulation instead. Anyway, to showcase you're not locked into fighting after seeing the battle forecast screen, Fabio's move is cancelled and instead the big dog Dietrich himself is called upon to finish this hologram. Dietrich has a whole bunch of skills helping him out, but only one crest, the familiar crest of Lamine his house is named after. Also note that there is no support message for him here, despite the fact he is next to an ally, so perhaps they have no support build up yet. He quite easily defeats his opponent, which then reveals these holograms do shout as if they're hurt, but then fade away as if, well, they are a hologram. Okay, so I purposefully kept the talk about Fabio short, even though he is arguably the biggest reveal of the week, and the reason for that is that only a few days later he'd be getting the spotlight from the Twitter account. He is described as a strange missionary from the Church of Saros, hailing from Fogland. While he is a rational person, he often looks down on others and calls them beasts. He and Dietrich are from the same hometown, but didn't know each other prior to presumably recently meeting. His likes include talking to intelligent people and various types of pain. Not sure if that means inflicting or suffering it. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, him being a member of the Church of Saros means the idea that Fortune's Weave is a very early prequel of Free Houses can be eliminated, since then the church wouldn't exist. But to make his alignment with the church even weirder, Fabio is not exactly subtle in what he presumably really is, and that is an Agarthan. Not only do those quite often refer to people on the surface as beasts, just like Fabio presumably does, he also wears a small silver earring, which is basically the Agarthan dress code in Free Houses. So from that angle, it seems to be the case that Fabio is Agarthan, and I would hope it's not meant to be subtle either. They might consider it a spoiler for the promo, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if that would be revealed quite quickly in-game. Dietrich might instantly recognize it, for example. That also begs the question, whose side is this guy on? Are we so far in the future that Agarthans have started to mix with the regular folks and just live their lives? Is he a reformed Agarthan maybe? After all, going from Agarthan to a member of the church is quite the step to say the least. Or is someone here not as heroic as we think they are? And then obviously Fabio is the early suspect, but what if Dietrich himself isn't necessarily a hero either? Or rather, he is perhaps the Edelgard in this game. The hero, so to speak, if you play him, the villain if you don't. All speculation, but that is what Fabio fuels here. But he could just as easily prove to be another Hubert, who obviously has a villain written all over him, but isn't really one. We then get a video of Fabio having a friendly conversation with Kai's group after presumably a battle where either they or he have functioned as these mysterious teal units. Hard to say whether this is a cutscene or a post-battle thing like the exploration Engage had, and the subject matter of conversation is even less telling. But first, I want to introduce you all to Esmeralda, the blue-haired girl who is certainly also a member of Dietrich's crew and seems to have a bit of a comedic quip relationship with Fabio, as the reason he speaks to Tiara here is because he finds her intelligent, but then Esmeralda butts in and asks why he then never talks to her. That feels too unserious to be an actual cutscene, so I am leaning more towards this being a post-battle conversation type thing that is more casual, kinda like how you could talk to your units on the battlefield after chapters in Engage. Well, I do like this conversation, it's fun. I can't help but feel just a teeny tiny bit worried after hearing it. You see, maybe this is too hasty a conclusion, it probably definitely is, but what has me a little worried about this talk is how it feels a little too much like an interest checklist for both Tiara and Fabio. Fabio comments on her intelligence, on how she is clearly well read, and suggests they talk tactics over a board game before restating to Esmeralda he appreciates talking to intelligent people. That checks almost every single interest we were given about these two, which on one hand can just mean this is a very well picked conversation, because it shows us who they are instantly, but I can't help myself from bringing up memories from Engage and Fates, where too many characters were reduced to their interests and quirks and didn't feel like actual real people who like what they like, but it isn't all they are. Then again, I do think it's a very positive thing that this appears to reveal that no matter which route you pick, assuming that is a thing, it still isn't confirmed, you still get plenty of time dealing with the characters from other routes. That was one of my favorite aspects in Free Houses. I also can't help but wonder why Dietrich isn't here. Not only do I see that as another strong hint that this isn't a story-relevant cutscene, but I also wonder if the reason for it is because Dietrich's convos with Fabio are too spoiler-heavy to use as promo material. Lastly, notice how absolutely huge Fabio is, not only compared to Kai in the group, but also Esmeralda. He is imposing for sure. But of course, we want to see him on the battlefield too, which is what the next video focuses on. Now, it is interesting to note that the text accompanying this tweet highlights that Fabio uses a dark magic that seeps the will to fight from his opponents. Whether that is an actual skill or ability he has, or just flavor text, is impossible to say, but I don't know. I feel like that will prove to be an actual thing, even if it isn't in this video yet. We do get a good look at Fabio now, and like I said earlier, he is a diviner. Notice the Church of Zero's emblem on his robe, he is not hiding it or anything. We are once again on that strange map, just a different side of it now, and when Fabio is selected and moved, for a brief second the cursor lingers on the character in front of him, the only member of Dietrich's crew here who hasn't been named yet. Turns out it's Michaela. She's a fighter, armed with a bronze axe, and also has Dietrich's banner, so she is a part of the team already. Note though that again, Fabio doesn't make hearts appear above anyone's head, but when he's ready to attack, the banner of Dietrich appears again, yet Michaela does not. It seems they don't have a support. Yet, because after his attack is concluded, he and her do gain points. We can see on the battle forecast screen that Fabio's opponent is another defense soldier, this time a cavalier. Fabio's kit is exactly the same as before, with 3 skills, no crests and Miasma Delta to attack with. From that regard, this is not the most telling trailer. Okay, it's been a busy week with a lot of videos and reveals, but this has been all of them. What are your thoughts on Tiara and Fabio? Share it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, subscribing, and if you're also interested in either the Pokemon or Mario series, you may want to check out my other channels, Pichupedia and Beyondapedia. Links are in the description. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.